Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 201B.
I'm Cam, this is Julie.
Hello. Yes, this is the Acts version, the part B, where we are moving through Acts, learning what happened to the apostles after the death, burial, and resurrection of Yeshua.
Yeah.
So, last week we were in chapter 26. This week we're doing chapter 27, and it is the story of the shipwreck.
Oh,
and
okay.
So I honestly had never read it before.
Oh, really?
I can't believe it. I had never, I knew it happened, and I knew it happened there, but once I started reading, I was like, I've never really read this before. At least not with the, maybe it's just different.
Maybe because you have this new understanding.
I think that's
and all
it.
this background. It's kind of, I would think it's like where we studied the first half of the book for years, then went back and read the New Testament. It's like I never read it before.
Well,
because of the understanding.
Yes, I never really understood the time frame.
Yeah.
I never really understood that this was at the end of his ministry. I never understood any of it. It was just, he was going to Rome. I don't know. He was on his way, and
is this
all
one
these
with the
things
snake?
happened. Yes.
Yeah.
No. It's not. The snake is next chapter.
Okay.
We'll talk about that next week. Okay. So, but this week, so in 26 we see him before Agrippa II and Bernice. And remember, Festus, not Felix. Felix was the first one. Festus is trying to figure out how in the world he's going to send him to Rome when there are no charges.
Right.
So he needs some help. And I don't know what he ended up doing, because honestly, when you read the end of 26, he didn't get any help. He had
that's right.
Agrippa II and Bernice came to the exact same conclusion.
Yeah.
He's done nothing deserving of death or chains.
Yeah.
So, but Paul appealed to Caesar, which means he's going to go stand before Nero. And 27 is about the first half of that journey to get there. Okay. So we are just going to start reading, and then we'll stop like we did last week, because the story is so good. I don't want to skip anything or leave anything out. I just want, it pretty much tells the story itself. All right, so 27:1 says, and when it was decided that we should set to Italy, okay, I'm already going to stop. That tells you that Luke is with him.
Yes.
All right, so Luke is a traveling companion along with Paul. So he's on this boat, which is probably why out of the 4 shipwrecks that Paul goes through, this is the only one recorded.
Yeah.
Because this is probably the only one that Luke was with him. All right, to Italy, they delivered Paul and some other prisoners to the named Julius, a captain of the Augustan regiment. So Julius was from the area of Batanea, which is over in Agrippa's territory. So honestly, he probably accompanied them over, gave them safe passage. So and while he was there, he was probably ordered to take Paul to Rome.
So being that Agrippa was involved in the last meeting, couldn't help, and then like they said, we can't let him go because he's appealed to Caesar. Right. This might be his contribution to kind of helping.
Yes, because I don't know, and I know that this Julius sees Paul very favorably, because they board a ship, and then when they get to Zidon, he allows Paul to get off the boat and go stay with friends.
Well, I just wonder, is a part of that also though, because he appealed to Caesar, and so they don't have
and
they're not chained them, they don't have something.
Right, they know there's nothing.
Right, and if he's found completely innocent in front of Caesar, they don't want a record of treating him like a prisoner.
Yes. Oh, God. Yep. All right, now let's see in 2. And having embarked in a ship from Adramyttium, okay, that's over in Asia Minor. It's across the island of Lesbos. I do remember that. About to sail along the coast of Asia, did set sail. Aristarchus, Macedonian of Thessalonica, was with us. So there's 3 of them. So Paul has 2 of his companions. All right, 3. And on the next day, we landed at Sidon, and Julius treated Shaul kindly and allowed him to go to his friends to receive attention. And from there, we put out to sea and sailed close to Cyprus because the winds were against us. And having sailed over the sea along Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Mura of Lycia. Anyway,
it's all Greek to me.
So they are, That's funny. I'm going to go backwards. All right, so if Israel's here and Rome is here, they're going up the coast like this, Asia Minor going over. Okay. These boats, because the winds are so bad, between the time of September-ish to December, they have to be in ships that are very close to the shore. The shore, yes. All right, and that's
so they can swim there.
Well, so they don't get taken to Africa. And that's true. That's really the truth. All right, in 6. And there the captain, having found an Alexandrian ship sailing to Italy, did put us on board. So an Alexandrian ship is a grain ship. So I thought it interesting that Rome was the first empire that was addicted, like in a bad way, to wheat and wheat products. They were so addicted that there was no way all of the Roman Empire could sustain themselves. So they have to get 80 to 90% of their grain because they were so addicted to
just mean
the
they
wheat.
Just ate a lot of bread.
Yes.
Think about the gorging and then the leaf.
Yes, it was an unbelievable addiction. So here, you have the first civilization addicted to carbs. We're the next one. We're like the expanded Roman Empire.
Exactly. Hello.
So
in more than
they
one
were
way.
so addicted that they got their grains from Egypt, and not only Egypt but all of Africa. So 4 months out of the year, it was said that Egypt could sustain the Roman Empire, and then the other 8, the rest of Africa, sustained the Roman Empire. So these grain ships, the Caesar, I think it was Claudius, gave them insurance policies because it was so dangerous. They're like, well, we can't bring you grain 12 months out of the year.
Right.
And he said, well, I will make it worth your while for the danger. Exactly. So they had high insurance policies. They had tax breaks. They had all kinds of incentives.
Sounded like I'm listening to Economic Report of today.
All because they were so addicted to grain. And grain didn't grow year round in the Roman Empire. Right. It got too cold. So anyway, so they're on a grain ship. That's going to become important in just a few minutes. And in 7, and having sailed slowly many days and arriving with difficulty off Cnidus, the wind not allowing us to proceed, we sailed close to Crete off Salmone. So Crete is an island that is in between Asia Minor and Greece. Okay. South. Okay. So if you were to look on a map, which if I can find one, I'm going to show you a map. So you might be looking at a map right now. I'm not sure. But Crete is not that far from Italy. Right. I mean, we're not. Italy shouldn't have been. Yes, it should have been.
Or does Greece own Crete? No, Greece owns
Well, the Roman, it's all under the Roman Empire.
Oh, that's right.
So,
bad.
Yeah, it's all under the Roman Empire. All right. And passing it with difficulty, we came to a place called Fair Haven near the city of Lycia. So it's on the very south tip of Crete. All right. So if you were to look south, that's Africa. Okay. All right. And that becomes important too because you'll see. All right. And much time having passed, and the sailing now being dangerous because the fast was already over, Paul advised them, saying, "Men, I see that this voyage is going to end with damage and great loss, not only of the cargo of ships, but also our lives." So you see, Luke says the fast is now over. That is Yom Kippur. So I find it funny that Luke, who is a Gentile, who supposedly is not, following the ways of the Jews and the law, refers to everything as the high holidays, the fast, and he's talking to a Gentile in Acts. It just shows that they were all under the same law. They were all doing the same
practicing
thing.
The same thing.
Yes, that's a better way to put it. Under the same law, but practicing the same thing. All right, and in 11, but the captain was persuaded by the pilot under the owner of the ship rather than what Paul said. Remember what I told you? They had the incentives to get there no matter what. So the captain's like, look, this boat's insured, so we're going. And because the harbor was unsuitable to winter us, the greater part advised us to sail from there too, if somehow they were able to reach Phoenix, which was, if you look on a map, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump up Crete, the island.
Oh, okay.
It's not far.
That's on Crete.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're only going to another harbor because this harbor can't sustain them for the winter.
Okay.
All right.
So they're sailing at a not good time.
Mm-hmm.
They're going and they're going to. Their plan is to stay in a harbor for winter, several months.
Yes.
So why even leave? Do they just leave so they're that much closer? No idea. The Lord said, "You're going to leave. I need Paul over there. I need this to happen."
Yeah. I mean, okay. I've been wondering the same thing, and there's no good answers.
Yeah.
So I don't think that their plan was to leave and go stay in the harbor. I think their plan was to get there, but the winds came early.
Right.
It's kind of like, oh, winter's already here. We got the first snow.
Right.
So we're going to have to wait it out.
Gotcha.
But the harbor that they're at in New Haven, they can't. So they have to move up to a harbor called Phoenix, which is really just, it's instead of on the south side, it's like on the west side.
So it's like just going to the next town.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, not far at all. Right. And 13. And a south wind blowing softly, thinking they had obtained their purpose, having lifted anchor, they sailed along Crete close inshore. So they had this nice south wind. All right.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, this will be easy. We're only going a hop, skip, and a jump away. And not long after, a stormy headwind rushed down from it called Northeaster. And when the ship was caught in it and unable to head against the wind, we let her go and were driven. So they had no control of the ship.
Right.
It was just wherever this wind takes us, that's where we're going.
And that's a survival thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's
like,
absolutely.
Okay,
yeah. And I could go into a lot of detail about what they did, cutting this and that, and
right, just
all the stuff they did to secure it. Yeah. I think they roped the rudders and did all kinds of stuff, but that would take too much time. All right. And having run under a small island called Clauda, we were hardly able to control the small boat. And having hoisted it, this is the boat that's attached to this big ship.
Thank you, because I'm like, small boat, I'm thinking,
they're not.
It's a grain boat.
It's
How can that be small?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this
and
is
I
like
do want to say
dinghies,
this,
like the rescue dinghies.
Yes, and I do want to say this, that the grain boats acted like commercial airlines. This is how people traveled.
Got you. You just get a room or get a seat on the grain ship.
And you bring your own food, bring your own provisions. It's not the carnival. I heard somebody say that this week. They're like, this is not the carnival ship. This is, this is bring all your own provision. And it wasn't supposed to last so long, so they quickly run out of food.
Right. Well, you think it's going to take you, 2 weeks or a week?
2 weeks was what it was supposed to take.
2 weeks, and now you're at a month. Well, you're done with that food.
Yep. All right. And 17. And having hoisted it, they used helps to undergird the ship, and fearing lest they should run around on Syrtis, which is North Africa. Okay.
Oh, okay.
They lowered the tackle, so were driven. And because we were exceedingly storm tossed, the next day they began to throw overboard, and so they were throwing just goods,
stuff,
grain,
right.
All kinds of stuff. Yes, because what was happening was water was rushing in. It was busting the containers of the grain, because when the grain gets wet, it swells. Not only does it swell, but now the weight's 3 times as much, and it just is sinking this boat.
And so it's hard to get it out once it's busted versus just throwing it out.
That's right. So now they started throwing things off. Okay, 19. And on the third day, we threw out the ship tackle with our own hands. When now neither sun nor stars appeared for many days. I mean, they were in like a hurricane type situation, is from what I understand. And no small storm beat on us. All expectancy that we would be saved was taken away. And when there had been a long absence from food, then Paul, standing in the midst of them, said, I love this. This shows Paul's humanity. He says, truly, men, you should have listened to me, not to have sailed from Crete and sustained this damage and loss. And now I urge you to take courage, for there shall be no loss of life among you, but only of the ship. For tonight a messenger of Elohim, to whom I belong and whom I serve, stood by me. See, it's not uncommon for seamen to have visions and have give sacrifices before they leave on a voyage.
Well, yeah, we see that with Jonah.
Yes. So Paul saying this is his way of communicating with them on, a level that they
I just hear,
understand.
I told you so. That's what I hear.
I know.
I told you so.
You should have listened to me.
Yeah.
But since you didn't, because of me, God's going to save you.
Yeah. Lucky for you, you're
right?
on my ship.
Okay, 25. Therefore, take courage, men, for I believe Elohim that it shall be according to the way it was spoken to me. However, we need to run around on some island. So he's saying
the boat.
that every soul, this is kind of code. What he's saying is, listen, every soul will be saved, but the ship won't.
Yeah.
The ship's not going to make it. So in my mind, I'm like, great. So where am I swimming to? And
Yeah, exactly. That's why we're by the coast.
yeah. Well, they're not anymore.
Oh, they got moved.
The wind took them away. I mean, we're 14 days out now.
14 days in the storm.
14 days in the storm.
Oh.
They have no idea.
Oh,
where
that's
they're
why
at.
they made the comment about Africa.
Yes. That's what they were trying to do while they were still by Crete.
Right.
But the winds took them, and now remember it said, and then we just gave way and just let it do whatever. Yeah. 14 days later, they have absolutely no idea where they're at.
Man.
All right. 27. And when the 14th night came, as we were driven up and down in the Adriatic Sea, about midnight, the sailors suspected that they were drawing near to some land. So taking soundings, they found it to be 20 fathoms, which is 120 feet. And a little further on, they took soundings again and found it to be 15 fathoms, which is 90 feet. And fearing lest we shall run aground on rocks, they dropped 4 anchors from the stern and were praying for the day to come. Because it was in the middle of the night and they couldn't see anything.
They didn't want to ground.
Yes. And in 30, but when the sailors were seeking to escape from the ship, when they had let down the boat into the sea under pretense of going to cast out anchors from the prow, Paul said to the captain and the soldiers, if these do not remain in this ship, it is impossible for you to be saved. So the crew was trying to sneak off.
Right.
Off the dinghy or whatever it is, the boat. And when day was about to come, Paul argued them all to take food, saying, today is the 14th day you have continued without food and eaten none at all. So I urge you to take food, for this concerns your safety, since not a hair shall fall from the head of any of you. Because they're about to wreck and going to have to swim. And so they need some energy.
Yeah, they haven't eaten for
14 days. All right, 35. And having said this, he took bread and gave thanks to Elohim in the presence of them all. And when he had broken it, he began to eat. This is not a Lord's Supper. This is not a Eucharist thing. This is not. Well, that is
traditional.
That's the tradition that's taught. I learned that this is like Paul doing doing like a.
This is just the blessed are you, Lord God.
Yes, this is the way the Jews
for giving us bread.
Yeah, for
Totally
bringing forth bread from the earth.
Thank you.
And they were all encouraged and also took food themselves. And all of us were 276 beings in the ship. And being satisfied with the food, they were lighting the ship, throwing out the wheat into the sea. So now they're throwing the rest of it.
So just my thought is like, why throw it when you're already going to get rid of, your ship's going down. But it's interesting that they're eating bread.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no idea about this. Do they bake bread?
What?
Or was there already bread and they didn't touch it all this time because it would be stealing? But now that they're like, it's going down, people, it doesn't matter.
Yes, I really believe that's all the research I've done says that that's what it was. The grains that were down there were to be sold.
Right.
They're all supposed to bring their own provisions.
Right.
But they had to toss all that off.
Right.
So now nobody can eat because everything that couldn't or that didn't have to go went.
Right.
Or everything
that could go
went.
Right.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Everything that they weren't going to be financially responsible for.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So then he's like, look, this is going down.
Yeah.
We're going down. So they used some of it. They ate. Yes. And 39, it says, and when day came, they did not recognize the land, but they noted a certain bay with a beach onto which they planned to run the ship if possible. So they didn't know where they were. They just saw an island and said, ooh, there's a bay and some ship. And having cast off the anchors, they left them in the sea. Meanwhile, untying the rudder ropes, and they hoisted the foresail to the wind and made for the beach. But coming upon a place where two seas met, they grounded the ship, and the prow stuck fast and remained immovable. But the stern was broken by the pounding of the surf. And the soldiers intended to kill the prisoners, lest any of them should swim away and escape. If you are transporting a prisoner and that prisoner escapes, you die.
Well, that was the same for the prison, because remember when the chains fell off and they were all concerned, and Paul was like, we're still here, because he's like, just kill me. Yeah, we're still here. You had lost one.
That's right. All right, 42. And the soldiers intended to kill the prisoners, lest any of them should swim away and escape. I already read that. All right. 43. But the captain intended to save Paul, kept them from their intention, and commanded those able to swim to jump first and get to the land. And the rest, some indeed on boards and some on items of the ships. And so it came to be that all reached the land in safety. So not one person died.
Right.
They all had to swim or float on parts of the ship.
Yeah.
So by the grace of God, the ship broke up. So people, the ones who couldn't swim, had something to hang on to. So everyone was saved. And next week, we're going to find out where they are and what happens. It's kind of neat. I did read ahead. Anyway, we only have one more chapter left. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow.
Yep. All right. Well, that's all I have for you today. And tune in next week to find out the rest of the story. All right. Shalom.